Yoga Motor Learning Project by AJ, Dalton, and Grant. So we chose the boat pose as our first position to learn. Then we chose the self-named key pose that we got off Pinterest as our second pose. The cognitive stage. So we started off just doing some general strengthening and flexibility exercises. We focused a lot on our hamstrings, our hip flexors, glutes, abdominals, low back, and upper extremities. And we basically chose these strengthening and flexibility exercises in order to prepare our muscles to be as flexible and as strong as they needed to be to properly perform the boat and the key pose. So this was our first attempt at a boat pose. It was very unstable, lots of swaying. We didn't really know what we were doing quite yet. Then we have our first key pose that we recorded in class. The hardest part was getting into and out of the position. It was very unstable, lots of swaying, and we had difficulties.
We then began to move into the associative stage. In this stage, we began to refine what we needed to work on. Our workouts were still split up into mostly strengthening and flexibility, but we had actually added more practice of the movements themselves. We also started a serial practice schedule in this stage, where we would alternate through our exercises to help us learn them better. For all of us, the boat pose was getting much easier. Our ab and hip flexor strength had gotten much better. We had gotten much more flexible, especially in our hamstrings, and we were able to hold the pose with good technique for at least a few seconds by this stage. For the key pose, we had figured out our problems by this point, and we had started to work on them individually. Dalton focused on his handstands, AJ on his flexibility, and I worked on my stability so that I was able to hold everyone up. We were able to hold the pose fairly well, but getting in and out of the pose was still giving us problems. Dalton still required the use of a bench to get into position, but we were overall getting much better.
And with more and more practice, we finally reached the autonomous stage. And in this stage, for the boat pose, you can see that our core stability and our hip flexion has improved significantly, doing the pose with ease. This is attributed to our core exercises we did to strengthen our core and our balance, and our hamstring flexibility exercises. In this stage, for the key pose, you can see that Dalton no longer needs a table to get up and do his handstand. The transition from the handstand into the pose is much more fluid, and me and Dalton's lumbar extension and thoracic extension is much more flexible. And Grant's stability in holding me up and holding the pose up as a whole is much more stable.
I say right foot, creep, over, walking with that heat. Look around, stay.